Okay, then we are online now. I think everything is okay. Can you hear me?
Yup.
Okay,
Hi.
super. Hi. So, welcome to the first attempt of OKK Artist Talks, the new series, which is called CAT, like cat, Critical Artist Talks in OKK. The idea is to fill in a little bit of working time during this pandemic situation where we cannot make exhibitions and any events for public. So we switched now to the platform, and yes, we are here on StreamYard, connected in Facebook and YouTube. Via Instagram, we are making announcements, and this platform, the StreamYard platform, is supported and administrated by Sasha. You see in the screen, Sasha Finzerbusch from Santiago, from Chile. He's working in Proyecto Ensemble, which is a collective which makes graphic designs and paperworks, and he is in charge of our administration of the digital platforms, websites, and this one, the StreamYard. And on the other side, we have Richard Klaus, a colleague. We are working together in OKK. Now, at the moment, he's at home, so we are really in 3 different places, like it should be. So, thank you, Sasha, for support. I think you will disappear now and guide behind the scene, the different videos, pics, and screens. So everybody which is watching us now can make comments via Facebook or directly in StreamYard. The comments also will appear, or YouTube. The comments also will appear, and if there are questions, we can try to answer the questions. But now I think we start. We start with Richard Klaus. We are working together here in OKK. Now, meanwhile, we have nothing else to do, to present. So our project room now is our studio. Richard, so would like to ask you a few things about your work, your trajectory, and how you maybe or suddenly you appeared also here in OKK. So you are practically with the work of OKK since almost the beginning. So you are an insider in our platform, and colleague working together now. Please tell us a little bit of your work. Maybe starting with the picture. I asked for a picture of each of our colleagues we will interview the next weeks and months. Picture from childhood. So I also have one, so I will post it later. So Richard, welcome, and yeah, please, let's hear.
Thank you very much, Pablo. Always a pleasure. So, you gave me some guidelines before that would be applied for the different interviews, talks that you will be carrying out. So, maybe Sasha can. There's the picture of my childhood that you asked for with my pirate ship. Yes.
Yeah.
So, in the guidelines that you sent me, you mentioned, to talk about, basically origins, education, stuff like that. So,
yes, shortly. So we will not spend the time in the past. So the idea is to switch to the actual work. But a short introduction, yes, a short introduction. Where you're coming from, where you lived, how did you get?
Well, basically, I was born in Lisbon. After that, I lived for a bit in London, and after that, my family moved to Chile. So basically, after a long bit in Chile, I lived shortly in Peru as well, then back to Chile, and then basically back to Europe, and mostly since about 2008 in Berlin. So my relation basically with Berlin, well, my father is Berliner. On the other hand, my mom was Chilean. So that's also part of my relation with Chile. Well, I guess I belong everywhere and nowhere, but my heart is definitely Chilean, I must say, more than everything else.
Okay.
In terms of my interest, studies, and that, well, I studied different things, but I studied photography and painting. And basically and music, and it's basically what I've been doing pretty much ever since. I had been working until Corona hit as an international photographer for many years, doing different lines of work, documentary, commercial, mostly as a portrait photographer, some documentation, some as cameraman. I worked as well. I worked as a musician, session musician. I play still in some bands. Where the main band I play with, it's called Hunter the Noise, which is Berlin-based. In terms of our current projects, well, due to Corona, of course, most of the agencies I usually work with and travel around, well, due to the conditions, are, well, pretty much on hold. So I believe I never been so long in one specific place. So it's been almost a year now that I'm, well, at least within Germany.
Yes, actually, I'm wondering that you are not crazy already, because I think you are the one I know who was traveling the whole time, the whole world. So
Well,
I can
usually
imagine
tend to
that
do
it's
around, yeah.
not easy to remain so much time in one singular place when you are customized to do exactly the opposite. So yeah, I
Well,
can imagine.
yes, but all good. Huh? So, well, basically, as you well mentioned, we have been, well, using when the OKK cannot open for exhibitions, we have been using that as an atelier. Due to my constant traveling in recent years, actually, I haven't painted that much in recent years. But well, COVID has been a very nice chance to start painting again. So I'm glad about that. It's always fun to paint. So, well, maybe I will scroll to the other pictures to see.
Okay.
So I can show to you some of the actual work, I believe.
Yes, please.
So here I will move the. I believe that it works like. Yes, I will. Here, I believe I can. Well, some very light, positive, reflexive intakes on life in general. I believe everyone, due to COVID, has been in a somewhat existential mood. So, well, this is part of a video I actually been doing lately with some in collaboration with musician and writer friend of mine. We had started a small project in which we have invited writers, poets to read their own work, usually accompanied by musicians. You also have joined us in some sessions, no? So my friend and colleague who started this, it's called Daniel Marshall. and it's called this project Loop, Lyric und Prosa. We have emitted some of the live streams we have been doing in relation to that from OKK as well, a couple of them. And well, this is part of this video that I made that's based on images I have been doing. This is something else. I will jump to the paintings we're talking about before, trying to not to dissociate so much. Whoops, yes. Here, for example, I did a whole series. I liked sort of creating puzzles with pictures. So basically, there is 6 canvases that are placed together, forming, optically speaking, a cube, and well, the sense of sometimes enclosure that I have been feeling every now and then due to the whole current situation. So I made a big series related to Corona, actually. Here is some other things that I've been painting lately. This is a medium format, so mix between abstract and figurative work, which I've recently been doing in OKK since Corona started. So here you can see, well, sort of a work in progress. I've been working in all of these late paintings in modules that you can work together and change, like a scheme of like puzzle. So you can see that basically by rearranging some of them, it changes a little bit the significance, And you can see, for example, in this arrangement, it's about the concept of social distancing. And by rearranging them, forms this other image, which basically states that in the current moment, Corona is king, So Corona rules.
Yes, okay.
At that time, and that we should keep social distancing rearranged, and so on and so forth, So, well, I have to admit that, well, here are some parts of the other Corona-related series that I've been painting, which is actually very strange that I would paint something more with a more clear reference. For a long time, I've been painting really abstract stuff. But, well, lately...
this work, for example, has very much influence from comics, obviously. What about the size? This works in which dimensions they are?
Well, each one of these paintings and modules are relatively small, or 30 by 30 centimeters. Okay. So here we have a close-up of one of them, for example.
Yes.
So that would be 30 by 30. And that is basically an analogy from when we had the pest in Berlin in the 1500s, So, and the current situation. So there you can see in that corner there, you can see, well, part of what is one of the oldest buildings in Berlin, Mitte. So, and afterwards, well, the Fernsehturm to make a relation to more actual times. We have the Berliner Bear there with, well, of course, looking a bit infectious.
Spreading virus.
Spreading viruses, yes. And, well, pretty much sorting out pictures as well in the recent months. I have tons and tons and tons of pictures that, to be honest, I need to sort out. If not, I will some of them probably will never see, because I tend to take more pictures that I'm even able to sort or look at to begin with. Yeah, so I've been documenting during my travels, for example, as well, pictures of, well, current...
Hey, Richard, can you amplify the images with the...
If I can amplify them and make them bigger, you mean? Yes? Yes, I believe I probably can, yes. But I don't know, it fits in the frame. Fits in the frame?
Maybe you can amplify the whole page.
Yes.
Like this, you mean?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes, much better.
Like that, yeah.
Yeah, super.
Perfect. So, well, in my travels, also I've been, well, basically been documented what remains or still is being created to state, well, different political relations, past relations, murals. So, for example, this is a mural that still exists, in Stockton, of course, in former GDR, Here I have some pictures of some work I have been doing with a Chilean collective. It's about the latest social upheaval in Chile, the so-called estallido social, which I'm tremendously interested in. So this picture has been taken by a photographer, part of this collective we have been working with ever since this social upheaval started, which...
So maybe we can add, we are talking about the autumn of 19 and till March of 20. Yes, till March 20, when Piñera, the Chilean president, which is in hard critics, he had the cause to implement the complete lockdown, and people could not go out anymore out to the streets, so the protests were cut. And in this case, it's very interesting because how the lockdown, the pandemic situation was used to oppress
the social upheaval, yes.
A whole movement which was really strong. It's a question of time that it will rise up again, I think. So that's maybe shortly for people to know
have a little context. Yes, absolutely. Yes. So, well, due to the whole Corona situation, of course, all of the social protests and the upheaval, well, was pretty much put on hold, So, well, very interested in all this process, considering, of course, that well, Chile has been pretty much the experimental grounds for current implemented neoliberalism, So I find that tremendously interesting, and well, for sure, this will develop further in relation. Well, we see how it goes with Corona, So, for example, in this picture, I remember this. This is a picture taken from the public channel television, where the current president declared that we are at war, So,
but this was before Corona.
Yes, this was before Corona.
This was at the beginning of the uprising. I think.
Yes, so we're talking about October 2019.
Yeah.
So basically, we're still working with this collective and group of activists in Chile, which for this special talk, I spoke with some of them, and they prefer to remain anonymous at the moment.
Of course.
They are continuing documenting.
Yes.
And their vision has changed a bit. Before they were more open about the whole process they're involved in, but unfortunately they also have been receiving threats and some other unfortunate upcomings. So, well, it's a work in progress that they're still developing, and hopefully someday when they're a bit more rounded in their own process, can help them out to maybe give them a platform outside of Chile in different parts, here you can see the center of Santiago, and what has been known for ages as Plaza Italia, and nowadays Plaza Dignidad. It's like the epicenter of where the protests until Corona hit have taken place. So, well, it's interesting times for sure. Corona has been changing a lot of things, and, well, putting, I guess, posts in all sorts of different events or process worldwide, of course, no?
Yeah, what I heard, and of course, Sasha and the other people from Chile can state, is that the city, the center of the city was really completely painted and full of graffiti and full of interventions, street interventions during that time. And in the first weeks of Corona, I heard from colleagues living in the center, first weeks of Corona, brigades of, I think, military it was, has been condemned to paint all the city gray again. So yeah, the statue also get its paint, and I don't know. I think now they have restored everything again, so the second round practically can start with the white canvas.
Well, as long as what I've heard and been told, yeah, the military was using curfew basically to refurbish the city center, and
Yes.
yes,
That reminds me a little bit to Turkey when we have been there and we had the whole graffitis from the Gezi protests. And I remember I had a small series of photos with this gray paint. They painted everything in gray rectangulars. And this gray paint is anti-graffiti paint, so difficult to overpaint again. But the city was full of these patches. It was a very singular, how to say, image of the city in Istanbul when it was 13. You know?
yeah.
Yes. Okay. Maybe we can go on. Do you have some projects in work which you want to present? So,
well, actually, I believe that in the future I will try to share some links because I don't have anything online yet of the current projects that I'm working on. Okay. So basically, I'm working on a big series of pictures that I've already taken in the last 10 years, related, but mostly to basically topics of different political view situations around the globe, where I have been happened to travel around. So for example, there's I have some little pictures, I believe. I can find it again. Is this?
So maybe we can add in this little gap that we will be working here in the project room in OKK. Well, I think till April probably, until we can retake the circuit of exhibitions or other events, performances, whatever what has to do with invite public. We will see how the situation is going on. And meanwhile, we are here in the OKK room making our works, and Richard now will show a projection for the next time.
Yes, well, I'm basically organizing, selecting pictures of a different process around the world that I've been able to witness. So, for example, I have been always very interested in different political views that are basically spread out of the world. So for example, tremendously ignorant still from big parts of the world. So these pictures that I'm just showing are part of this ongoing series that I'm selecting, working on. This we have been taken in Vietnam. Some of the other pictures that, well, besides but more in the more political spectrum. If I can find them somewhere here, where are they? Well, apparently I have them in some other. Well, some of the pictures I was mentioning that has been, for example, related to this one, no. So
Maybe you can
serious.
amplify it a little
Yes,
bit, please.
I've been doing some pictures for some years now in places where actually local people don't feel represented by this so-called nation they belong to, no? So, for example, this picture I took in Rapa Nui, and it was basically documenting the struggle of part of the population which want to become independent from the Chilean government, no, and be their own nation, no.
So you're talking about Rapa Nui, which is also called Easter Island, which
Yes.
is in the middle of the Pacific, nowhere in the ocean, and I don't know, several thousand miles away from the continent, but it belongs to Chile. It's national territory from Chile.
Yes. So part of the population there has this the struggle and the vision that they should be independent, no, from Chilean nation. And well, I've been working that subject of identity. What is nation? What forms a nation? So, well, Corona also once again showed that all of us that we're closer to each other than we tend to think, and that we probably should unite since we're all in the same struggle. And
Yes,
well,
apparently, yes.
I it's an ongoing series that I've been working on, no? And well, not only in this particular case, no, I also been involved with people working in Catalonia and parts of Italy, things that we even have, of course, in Germany as well, independent movements and so on and so forth, no? So, well, a big part of what I'm doing lately, or mostly, I would say, it's related to music, actually, which is one of my biggest interests in general ever since I was a child. And I've been doing a lot of soundscapes, actually. So that is basically what I intend to do in the upcoming months of Corona, and these are actually the current projects that I look forward to continue and
this soundscapes you mentioned. How can we imagine? So, what is your instrument, or what is your techniques you are using?
Well, I'm using and playing different instruments. I'm mixing mostly samples with a sequencer. For that, I'm using the sequencer. I'm playing synthesizers, and I'm sub-bass oscillator, so to create very deep frequencies. And on top of that, I'm usually playing drums. So although I play a little bit of some instruments, I consider myself in that respect to be probably more prolific as a drummer. So this is basically the mix of the soundscapes. Are a bit difficult to describe, but well, as soon as I have a little bit more rounded up sound, I will bring them online and I will share the link.
We are waiting for that. So when it's ready, we can also make presentation event, hopefully live with people.
That would be great.
But we don't know. Maybe only on an online platform. But anyway, when time comes, we will find a way how to do that. Okay. What else? So maybe I make a short presentation of the things.
Would love to hear about your own.
then in the end, we can talk about, well, actual situation and visions, ideas, dreams. I don't know what's coming up. So maybe I will start also with the photo
Brilliant.
we talked about. So the photo, yes, I don't know. It's
Thanks, Carlos.
from the 70s, I think, 75, maybe 76.
I like it.
So you see, I was born as a hippie. Yes, in the 70s, typical leather trousers, and yeah, I think the only thing which is left is the poncho, because when I was small, I had a poncho, blue poncho with yellow points. But when I grow up a little bit, I had not much interest to put on the poncho because, yeah, of course, gender shit. Can imagine. So yeah, this photo is from 70s. I practically grow up in Germany, in Saarland. Was born in Ecuador, but I was very small when the family moves to Germany. So I lived in Lebach in Saarland, 2 years in between, from 80 to 83, plus minus. 2 years in Ecuador, which was very strong socialization for me, because I saw a complete other reality of our West German comfort zone. In Ecuador in the 80s, it was different than now. It was really tough for well, overall for indigenous groups, and I got first time this contact with Latin American cultures in a very experimental way, to say something. So yeah, I studied in Chile, so that's why we meet also with Richard since the 90s. We met first time in Chile, of course, also with Sasha supporting in the back. I studied in Chile. I arrived in Chile in 2004, I think end of 2004, November, December. Started with my university, with my studies in fine arts, aesthetics, paintings, engravings, and also theory. After that, I was 9 years in Chile. I worked also in between as a guide in Atacama Desert. So ever this connection with nature and travel and geographical and social items of the parts. I just see Hansana's input. Yes, wearing leather trousers. Yeah, I traveled a lot in the jungle and in the high mountains, and having the right equipment was important. And boots and leather trousers, I think I never took them off. So can imagine, yes, that was the hard traveling times. Yeah, then back from Chile, I came to Germany. I was living 1 year in Bonn, near Cologne. Spent a lot of time in Cologne. And
whoops, the sound is off.
Sound is off?
It was off by me.
Okay, but
Sasha,
now okay. You can go on. Sound is there.
I hear you now.
Okay. Yeah, then I came back to Germany 2003, 4, and I had the choice practically to go to Cologne to the university, and it was more digital things, or I go to Berlin to Kunst und Kontext, and I make more the practical, the analog way. And I decided myself for the analog way, and so I landed in Berlin. It was 2003 when I came, and I'm still here. I think I was never so long in one row at the same time, at the same place. So Berlin is my ankle point, or my base, my port, to say it like that. So yeah, after the university, or during the university, I made a lot of works in context, organizing projects, exchanging projects, exhibitions, a lot of exhibitions, practically this operational part of exhibitions, to organize exhibitions, hangings, and etc. pp. Like also curatorial work, and for sure, of course, my artistic work, which in the last years has not been so focused, because the work in the room, you know, this organization of OKK exhibitions, projects, international, national, and on all levels and platforms with a lot of people, takes a lot of time. So my personal work went down for a few years. So now I retook, and this pandemic situation practically gives us how to say, the break to make our own work. So I still since ever working in painting. So you can see here a painting which I made from an impression of my travel to Belarus. This is Minsk. It's the Nyamiga station. It's an old Soviet monument. It's a concrete relief practically on the top of a building, and it still remains there. And underneath you can see yeah, KFC and Luna Pizza, fast food deliverers. And it's yeah, the things which I'm interested in is this contrast, and I yeah, try to fix it on the painting. Here we have the Cultural Palace in Minsk. It's a huge building, also from Soviet times, where practically all the cultural events from the city on a bigger scale are organized. So here's some impression from Ecuador. This is Cotopaxi, a still active volcano, and town of Latacunga. Here we have a painting. Oh, the photo is not so good, but anyway, it's a painting from Quito, from the old town in Quito. The colonial style, you can see, is still very present there. And yeah, it's, well, the colonial history we all know. We don't need to go in. Here's some other abstract works which I'm doing the whole time. It's a kind of series. I have a series of small paintings on papers, which is called Formulas Organicas. Formulas Organicas means the work with this, yeah, kind of formula of science, which are repetitive and practically filling the whole atmosphere or the whole painting. And I use them since ever. So I started to paint before the studies in the university, and there are some patterns, some old elements which are still there since the beginning of my paintings. Here's another work, informal work, informal material work with sands and knots inside of the canvas. So the canvas is made by a knot and then put on the frame, and then work with paint and sand. It's called Remember, and it should remain us to article number 5 of the how to say, the Grundgesetz, the Constitution of Germany, and the Article 5 reminds us to the liberty, the freedom of speech, the freedom of education, freedom of science, press freedom, and obviously the freedom of arts. So a very important item in my work, which is ever questioned by actual streamings in politics and the society. So here's a very old painting from the 90s. This is from study times in Chile, and this is, maybe you recognize it, it's Farellones, the entrance of Farellones, I think kilometer 6-7, La Quebrada del Chancho, which is, yeah, kind of, it means Schlucht in English. Well, there comes a little river floating in to the Mapocho River, which you see at the bottom here. This is Fray Jorge, also a very old painting we made on study travels in the north of Chile, near La Serena. And this is a work I like very much, which is, well, actually very politically. This is from a few years ago. It's not so actual at the moment, but the relationship between United States and Germany, which ever has his highlights and things which are in several ways interesting. This work is a collage. I have this collage, made it out of photos and articles and images from newspapers, and I mix it with paint and materials.
Yes, works in many different levels, no?
Yes, yes. These are, well, landscapes I ever do in between. This is kind of symbolical work, Quetzalcoatl, a Mayan god from Mesoamerica, Mexico, which was used by the Zapatistas also. And there's an anecdote. The first Quetzalcoatl I painted, it was in 1994 to 95, and I finished it in the New Year's Eve, and the 1st of January there was the Zapatista revolution, so it was very funny, this connection. So I'm still interested in the movements of South America, the indigenous movements. There we also have a lot of yeah, stories and items. In Chile, for example, the Mapuche tribes, which are still struggling against state and against oppression from state and multinationals. So the indigenous link is in the work, present, ever there. So here's some other abstract paintings, yeah, from my works in painting. Well, beside the painting, there are still this research works in political items and items of how to say, concerning actual political or social problematics. Here, for example, it's an older one. This is from the relation between the right revolutionary movements, which we had seen 2 weeks ago when they stormed the Capitol, in relationship with terrorism and work of secret services. Yes, here we have a work about territory. I'm trying to find out relationships between the territory, identity, and also the national belongings, and kind of hierarchies, what it's about, this positioning of each one in his own territory. So we worked, for example, about the Heimatbegriff, which is very because of the history. Here we have some other ideas about the economy and flowings of money and lobbyism in concerning war, because one of my thematics is still the war project, which is called War and Reaction, which I started to work together with Jan Bejovec, a colleague from here from Berlin, also part of the OKK team. And it's a work about where I am. I'm a little bit lost here in my map, maybe
Folder.
Yeah. So this work is called War and Reaction, and it's a mapping of the world map. And in this world map, I painted on the wall. I draw it on the wall with pencil, and I marked each national state. And in these states, with little K's and little R's, all the weapons conflicts are marked since the last 100 years of weapon conflict in the different regions of the world. And you can see it's a lot of K's. There are some differences between the small and the big letters. The big letters are cases where the death rate went wide over 1 million. The small case are less than 1 million victims, but a lot of conflicts which are still going on the planet. And for me, it's an item to research, to read about, to work with. So this map, I drew it 2017 in Hyvinkää in Finland, in the museum, Contemporary Museum in Hyvinkää, when we made an exhibition with the Colony Wedding. And also I presented it in Serbia, in Novi Sad, in the Contemporary Museum of Novi Sad, also painted on the wall on a huge scale with all these references I was talking about. So that's a little bit what I'm doing. Then obviously still working on the series of portraits. I retook a few years ago the drawing, like realistic drawings, which I didn't work on for a long time. And now I'm there again doing portraits. I have a series which is called Revolutionary Icons, which I draw important people from past or actual, which have influenced in movements, in progressive movements. So here, for example, we have Charlie. It's Karl Marx in young years as a young man. And also another series, which is artists. Here we see Motorhead singer and frontman Lemmy Kilmister. This is Tina Modotti, a photographer from Mexico, and she made a very important and interesting series of the Mexican Revolution. During the revolution, this is Che Guevara as a child, I think 14-year-old. This is Ludwig Renn, and Ludwig Renn was an important person during the Spanish Civil War because he was the leader of the German battalion, the Thälmann battalion, and he was also a writer, and he wrote a lot of impressions and theory of the Civil War, of the Spanish Civil War. He was recognized writer in the GDR during the 50s and 60s. I think in the 60s he died. This is Gustav Metzger, artist colleague, practically the father of art strike. We also worked with in the last years art strike as a method of artistic expression, and Gustav Metzger obviously is one of the most important figures in that. This is from a series. It's called Renegades. This is Motorola. He was commandant in Donbass, in Ukraine, in the east, and killed by bomb in the lift of his house. Here we have great master Linton Kwesi Johnson. This, of course, is a photo when he's young. He now should be around 75, something like that, maybe. Yes, here we have Balmes, Jose Balmes, important Chilean painter, and our master. I went when I went to university. Jose Balmes and Gracia Barrios. Gracia Barrios was my prof in painting when I received myself from university, and Jose Balmes. It's great influence in the informal arts and in the contemporary paintings in Chile. So actually, I think Balmes had birthday yesterday or something, so it's a commemoration day. Here, this is Camilo Cienfuegos from the Cuban Revolution. He's also from the series Revolutionary Icons. Emiliano Zapata, Franz Fanon. Franz Fanon, very important figure in the civil rights movement. He wrote a lot about struggles against racism. Very actual also nowadays. Here is a painting. Thomas Brasch, he was writer in the GDR, and then he was kicked out from GDR because he was too critical. Then he came to BRD, but at the beginning they loved him because he was kicked out from GDR. But then when they started to realize what he really writes, and really critical writer towards the system, he also was not one of the most liked persons in the scenery. Here we see the front stage of OKK in the summer, when I changed each 2-3 weeks our showcase in order to have at least something visual for the people when they pass by. And well, here, this is a painting I made my prof, Gracia Barrios from Chile. She died in summer last year, so this is a homage to her. Here we have Néstor Magnó, anarchist revolutionary movement around 100 years ago in Ukraine. So, and here is Stanislav Petrov. He was a Soviet officer, which did not press the button when he should have pressed it by orders. It was in 1983 when it was a false alert of nuclear weapons, and he was in charge to respond to this alert. And he realized that it's a false alert, and he denied the orders and did not push the button. So I think he saved the ass of a lot of people, or better say, of us all. And well, so on. Here we have Ocasio-Cortez, the deputy from Democrats in New York City. She is, yes, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. Well, here, well-known old fighter for Black movement. Angela Davis. This is people say it's Che Guevara. It's not Che Guevara. It's Fidel, actually. Fidel. And so on. Yes, that's the work I'm doing now. And well,
sorry, Pablo, you, but they have asked you a couple of questions online on Facebook. Okay. We're looking at your folder, so there they are. So maybe you can answer those because they have been on for a while.
Okay.
Can you read them?
Yes, I'm reading.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Hansana is asking about the buildings, the historical buildings, and what I find interesting in them. Well, for me, the buildings, I realized this in my travels to Eastern Europe, Russia, Belarus, Ukraine, well, and the other Slavic countries like Poland and Czech Republic. Also Serbia. There are a lot of legacy from the Soviet times, which is still present there, and we as Western Europeans never. We know it only from photos or from film or from the imagery. How to say, the images from from the Western side, from Hollywood, mm-hmm. from I don't know what else. So to see them live and to see them still there, because in some countries they are destroyed rapidly. It's a kind of reminder, historical reminder of a cultural phase which was maybe not uninteresting for take some ideas and be able to make some rethinkings in what really was the intention of socialism. Actually, in these times we are living now, it's a very, very actual, very, very contemporary question: how we live together, how we want to build our society. There are a lot of intents of progressive culture, of progressive politics, which ever should be reconsidered. And I think these buildings, and not only buildings, also science, sculptures in public space, for example, which we find in the Eastern Bloc, as a chain to this Soviet times, which obviously, like all systems, there's a lot of critics, but there are also things, items, experiments which could be rethink nowadays. And yeah, that's for me the link for the work with the buildings and the old science. There was another question. I don't know.
The portraits there.
Portraits. Mm-hmm. Well, of course, it's about legacy. It's very similar to the work with the buildings and with my photographic work of the urban spaces regarding this legacy. I think it is important to work images to refresh. Maybe deconstruct or reconstruct images, which remain us to this different persons, to these different figures, which are more than the person they are. They are icons. I call them icons. They are people with a lot of ideas, a lot of background, which should be overall for the young people, for the younger generations, necessary to retake, to connect the own struggles with this old ideas. And I think this connection works very well on a visual level by using these icons, this iconography of the portraits of these figures. I think that could be the explanation why I'm working on it. So I don't know, we don't have more other question now. Then maybe shortly, I could make a small jump to another actual work which I'm doing. Maybe it's not so super political, but of course it has to do with consciousness. It has to do with ecology, with the consciousness of life forms, and maybe of yeah, life forms, ecology, the connection to Mother Earth, to say it like that. It's the mushrooms. You can see it here behind me. There are some drawings, some sketches of mushrooms. So during the pandemic times, the last year, I have been a lot of days outside in the forests in different regions. Here nearby Berlin, Brandenburg, but also in Wolfsburg, where I have been working for several weeks. And yeah, the forests in that time, which was late summer and the whole autumn, are full of mushrooms. And yeah, the mushrooms are kind of my favorite motifs in the nature. I make also photos, other photos of nature, but the mushrooms actually are the most important ones. So maybe Sasha can put them. So yeah, we can see them. Today I made actually the work to traduce them, translate them in English, because I have no idea how they are called in English, not even in Spanish. I know the German names, and of course they have a scientific name also. But yes, I think what's going on here. I will not read them all. Maybe if you, Richard, have some question for some of them. This is a bitter oyster. It's called, the other before was a stinkhorn, which is a mushroom which is really smelly, and you can smell it several meters. So you know that he's there somewhere before you can see him. The mushroom thing, or the mushroom picking itself, is a very interesting way to kill time and to learn about nature. While you are walking through the forest, I think it's about 60% you are really walking, and 40% you are standing or crawling practically to make the photos, to identify the mushrooms. There are very small ones in between, and it's a kind of performance, you know. I really consider it as a performance. You get time for yourself. Everything is running much slower than the daily doings you have to do normally. So mushroom picking is a kind of therapy. And you can imagine the forms, colors, and types of mushrooms are really very diverse. For my painting, it's also important to have these structures. Here, for example, we have a boletus, a pepper boletus, He's really spicy. I made a small mistake this summer, and I collected some, and I was not 100% clear if it's the pepper boletus or the golden boletus, and said, okay, I'm not sure. And I took him apart and I prepared it apart, and it was really spicy. I had a quarter of one of these. They are maybe like this, so 3-4 centimeters. It was maybe comparable with the good ají in Chile. Here he is. That's the guy, the spicy one, and of course thousands of different forms and colors and shapes. This one, for example, is a Knollenblätterpilz. In English, it's called a death cup. It's actually one of the most poisoning mushrooms here in Central Europe. So beware of having him into your basket when you go for mushrooms. And this one is nice because he has a hole from outside, so you can see from outside the lamellas, the gills from the mushroom, which normally you don't see before you pick him up. Yes, there are a lot of other ones. These are Stockschwämmchen, stick sponge. When I translate it in English, I don't know the English. Stick sponge. Yes, a lot of different types or families of mushrooms.
Incredible.
So I went a little bit away with the mushrooms, and practically my practical work in painting or drawing. But I decided to make a cyclus of drawings first, so kind of studies to get the structures. I talked about the patterns in the paintings from the beginning, and these patterns I want to translate it in the structures of the mushrooms. So there is a lot of work waiting for me in that sense, and I want to really combine my work with the mushrooms with the painting and the graphic work I have done before. So I started a series of drawings of the mushrooms as sketches to get a structure, and from this my idea is to pass to the painting again and try to elaborate a series, visual series of mushrooms, painted, drawn, and photography. And I also want to make a kind of mapping of the mushrooms in order to get a structure of mushrooms in a geographical sense or cartographical sense. Mm-hmm. So I don't know if you know that the biggest living being on planet Earth is a mushroom. It's a halimash, which is growing in Oregon. Mm-hmm. And altogether, I don't know exactly, but I searched in internet. He is considered between 2.5 and 8,000 years old. It's not clear, but really old. He covers 3.7 square miles in the soil of the Blue Mountain forest in Oregon, and they calculated the mycel of the mushroom around 600 and something tons. So the mushroom is much bigger as a living organism than, for example, the blue whale, which is the biggest mammifer. So yeah, mushrooms are very interesting also in the sense of this rhizomic life. The mycel of the mushrooms are connected with the trees, and they have interaction. So about 70 to 80% of all the plants on the entire planet would not exist like they are doing now without the mushrooms and without this connection or this exchange of mushrooms and plants. The mycelium is like wired on the roots of the trees, for example, and they have a symbiosis which is essential for the living of the plants. So yeah, mushrooms. It's a very extensive item which I'm working on, and yeah, I think I will go on the next weeks and months
and years.
drawing, painting, reading, and working about mushrooms. That's the plan for now, and of course. We will go on with the work in OKK. There are some, how to say, some plans for the next presentations. We don't know when it will be, so that's our problem now, or better say, that's our position we are in.
Yes.
What do you mean how it will go on? So we have yeah, next time it's clear we will be working here, but how do you what do you think will bring the future in this year, or maybe projecting to the next one?
Well, difficult to say, huh? I only hope that we can have a change, globally speaking, in terms of they somehow hopefully will bring us together, no? Instead of compete and continue competing in the very competitive society world we live in. I hope that we have a break in the paradigm and we can actually change competition for collaboration, hopefully.
That sounds really good. That is a thematic which I think a lot of people should consider, of course, because the consumist way of exploitation of the planet, of exploitation of people, exploitation of, well, the whole turbo capitalistic system is a huge exploitation of everything. Of
Yeah, this
resources, of time,
relentless pursuit of growth, no?
yes, yes. Well, we made a work a few years ago about this turbo capitalism, about this neoliberalism, with the work of the auction, the wedding auctions we presented in Athens, and that was one of the thematics of exactly that kind of system we are living in, and yeah, start to rethink how it will go on. So the question is, what can we apport as artists for the process? So the idea, the basic idea is, yeah, make a platform. Today, of course, we talked about our own works and about kind of presentation of our work, what we are doing now in this studio situation. But it's the first of a series I really want to make about the situation of the colleagues in the different countries, and have kind of scope of what's happening outside. So I would like to invite colleagues from different countries we worked together before. So yeah, to hear what are the ideas of the others, how to network, how to go on with the practical work and also theory.
Absolutely. We should hopefully create some connections, like establish a relation, a flow of nutrients, pretty much like fungi.
Yeah, actually, the colleagues from Art Laboratory, Chris and Regine, they brought out a book now, Mind the Fungi. It's called. They have it on their website. It's online, so you can get it. They are talking about exactly that the artistic work, the networking of the artistic workflows are very similar with the rhizomatic mid-cell structures of fungus, of the mushrooms. So we have a huge connection there, and we will be working also on that. So there is some theory existing about it. So
great. I will get that.
Mind the fungi.
Mind the fungi. I will read it.
Yes. So we are talking 1 hour, 20 minutes. It's a lot. So hopefully in the next weeks we will have some interesting colleagues, and maybe I'm thinking about we could try to make a format where we have a round kind of discussion, kind of panel discussion. Of course, for moderation, maybe would make sense if someone of us takes the moderation. Wanted to say something about the language. Today we spoke in English. It's very unusual because normally with Richard we speak Spanish, or even worse, Chilean. And yeah, with a lot of colleagues, I will speak in German. So the option is to have German, English, and Spanish interviews and talks with the people. And it's structuring. We will restructure maybe also to have some topics like the Panopticum. It's a new project I'm working on. Panopticum means to have scopes into the different working blocks of OKK. So, for example, we have some urban art things, or we have some gender things, or now actually anti-racist works. So would like to have the scopes, and maybe we can invite colleagues, several colleagues from yeah. Hey Pablo. Greetings to Copenhagen. So yeah, I think we are done for today. Thank you, Richard, for time.
Thank you. My pleasure always.
And so on. And yeah, we will try to focus also in political items. So I think the next weeks will be interesting, and I will try to get colleagues with actual work, which is really congruent with the actual political situation in different countries. So that's the plan. Hopefully you will join next time again. To all people outside, I don't know exactly how much people are there, but Sasha, we will have now a round, and we will see what happened. And yeah, the next time also announced by newsletter, by Facebook and Instagram. And yeah, you are all free to join next Thursday, 21 in the evening, Berlin time. So, Richard, do you have a Schlusswort or something?
Well, I just would like to thank everyone. Thank you, Pablo, and of course, thank you, Sasha. It's been a pleasure. It's been a treat.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. So, see you next week then.
Brilliant.
Okay.
Bye. Ciao.
Super good.